Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. Today's Do You Know question is, do you know the Catholic teaching on immigration? As most of us are aware, we are facing a major world crisis on immigration. Much of it is due to our own making. There are many causes for immigration and the mass migration that is happening. Some of them are global, the changes in global warming, global climate, economic disparity, the selling of arms, which makes for more violent nations and less security. All these and many other causes are some of the key reasons for the mass migration that is occurring in our world today. The mass migration and deportations are grave moral issues. How do we as Christians respond to these moral issues? Well, for us as Catholics, our Catholic social teachings can be a great guide in this particular moral issue. The principles that our Catholic social teaching works off of is the fact that all human beings are bound together because we are a family of God. We are God's children. Therefore, as a result of this, all human beings have inherent value. They are sacred. Their dignity is to be respected and so on. Why? Because all of us are created in the very image and likeness of God. So as a result, when we treat human beings instead of these dignified members of the same family, when we treat them as commodities, we actually devalue their worth. It leads to inhumane systems, and it actually, violates the very dignity and sacredness of the individual. Our Catholic social teachings establish a love of neighbor as ourselves, jumping off of the Gospels. The love of neighbor includes, yes, care for ourselves as well as those near to us, but also care and concern for the most vulnerable among us. That is the challenge of loving neighbor as ourselves. The classic example of all this is the story of the Good Samaritan, who becomes a neighbor to the person whom he comes across who is the most need, the most vulnerable. We too are called to be that Good Samaritan to all those who are in a vulnerable state or need our help and our assistance. Catholic social teaching has two key principles that are applicable here. One is the preferential option for the poor, and the other is the concern for the common good. And it's important that we work out what does it mean to be concerned, first of all, for the poor, and secondly, how do we establish a consistent effort to promote the common good of all. So it's important. Here we have Pope Francis, really a great guide and a help in establishing our attitude and perspective towards migrants and the strangers in our midst, especially those who are the most vulnerable. In all of his speeches, Pope Francis has promoted what he calls 4 verbs that all Christians should apply as they deal with migrants and those who are displaced. The 4 verbs are to welcome, to protect, to promote, and to integrate migrants and the displaced. Because he says that often migrants and refugees have no choice in the matter. No one chooses to leave their land for a flimsy purpose. Usually they're leaving their land because they have no choice in the matter. Their life or their children lives are at stake and they need to leave. And therefore it's our responsibility to care for and pay attention to their needs and to try to promote and integrate them into a lifestyle that respects their dignity and their worth. A great movie on this, by the way, is the 2013 movie called Elysium, which speaks about this crisis in a real, very visual way. And I would encourage you to take a look at that movie if you can. Again, the movie is Elysium, I'd like to end with some of Pope Francis' really powerful statements on the Christian attitude towards migrants and the displaced, which he stated very clearly and powerfully in his most recent document, Gaudete and Exultate, Rejoice and Be Glad. And so I'm going to quote a couple of passages from him with regards to what he suggests our attitude towards migrants and refugees should be. This is number 102 and 103 of Gaudete and Exultate. We often hear it said that, with respect to relativism and the flaws of our present world, the situation of migrants, for example, is a lesser issue. Some Catholics consider it a secondary issue compared to the grave bioethical questions. That a politician looking for votes might say such a thing is understandable, but not a Christian, for whom the only proper attitude is to stand in the shoes of those brothers and sisters of ours who risk their lives to offer a future to their children. Can we not realize that this is exactly what Jesus demands of us when he tells us that in welcoming the stranger, we welcome him? This is based on Matthew chapter 25. St. Benedict did so readily, and though it might have complicated the lives of his monks, he ordered that all guests who knocked at the monastery door be welcomed like Christ, with a gesture of veneration. The poor and the pilgrims were to be met with the greatest care and solicitude. Pope Francis also quotes from the Old Testament, and in quoting from the Old Testament, especially the book of Exodus, he claims that you shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him, for you yourselves were strangers in the land of Egypt. And then quoting the book of Leviticus, he also states that when a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress him. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as a citizen among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And so Pope Francis ends with, this is not a notion invented by some pope or a momentary fad. In today's world, we are called to follow the path of spiritual wisdom proposed by the prophet Isaiah to show what is pleasing to God. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover him, and not to hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn. So I think these powerful statements are really crucial in our understanding of what our attitude should be towards migrants, and they really actually provide a path for us to walk in addressing this major crisis that we face in the world today. So I hope this has helped to understand a bit of what our Catholic teaching with regards to immigration is all about, and I hope you will return again to more Do You Know serious questions as we continue to explore our faith and our attitude towards all of God's children. Thank you very much.